All right. Final email we have this week. Okay, and this will be a quick one.
Okay.
Because you have probably zero opinion on this, knowing what it is. Matt from Oak Park, Michigan. Howdy, guys. I'm curious, well, it's not a movie. Are any of you going to bite on this Acolyte show everyone is shitting on right now? Dan, you're not a Star Wars fan.
Okay. Absolutely not. I don't care about Star Wars. I find most of it incredibly boring.
I understand. I would tell you, as far as Disney Star Wars goes, you're not wrong.
I think I've seen 1 through 6, and my official opinion on 1 through 6, it's all fine.
I remember I remember when Force Awakens came out. I remember like going to see it and then just running the plot of it down for you, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to see that.
I know what happens. I know who dies. I know all of it.
Yeah.
Really could care less.
No, like here's my thing. I think Star Wars, for me personally, Star Wars has been dead since The Last Jedi. It had a brief like moment where they breathed a little life into it with The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, and they kind of killed that with season 3. Because they changed what the show was about. Like, it was about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, or Grogu, whatever you want to call him. And then in season 3, they were like, well, what if this show's actually about Katie Sackhoff's character instead? And now everybody's a Mandalorian. That's not what that show was. So they ruined that show. People love the shit on the Obi-Wan show. I thought it was fine. That was the other one I was like, this is okay. I didn't watch Andor. I don't care. I'm not going to watch Ashoka because I don't care. I never did. But this show in particular, I always knew it was going to be bad. Like, we always knew. I know the person, I know of the person that's behind the show. Like, I know her backstory, which she has a pretty dark backstory I'm not going to get into here. But I just knew, like, you always had this feeling of, like, the Acolyte's not going to be good. It's going to be set in this High Republic era that the books were already proven to be a failure, so now you're going to make a TV show of it. But what they have done, and I've seen enough reaction videos this week to know what's happened. No interest.
I read it just if there was of how bad it sounded for this.
It's so bad.
And as someone who, we won't spoil it, but as someone who generally doesn't care and doesn't give a shit what the Force is or who made it or if it's shit in your blood or whatever, this explanation of it is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
It's awful. Yeah. It's awful. Why go this far back and then try to change everything about it?
Continue to fuck it up. You've rewritten it 3 times. So what actually is it? Like, I don't.
This is what I told my girlfriend either earlier today or yesterday. I said, here's what I don't understand. Disney bought Star Wars. They literally, at the time of purchase, they bought a license to print money.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars, of all fucking things. And in a decade, they have burned this franchise to the ground so bad that if you add up, and I watched some guy do the math the other day, if you add up the movies, so the new trilogy and these TV shows, they still have not made their purchase money back.
What's strange?
How is that possible?
What's strange to me is this is also the company that bought Marvel. And
yeah.
Somehow, present stuff notwithstanding, but somehow nailed a 10-year run of Marvel stuff.
So they should easily nailed a 10-year run of Star Wars.
But I think the problem with Star Wars is with Marvel, they at least like kind of did the first couple things kind of on the fly. And then they finally were like, let's get one guy. One guy's just going to be in charge. He'll make the decisions. He'll keep it all tied together. Kevin Feige, you're the guy. And
yeah, I agree with
Star Wars has always been like, well, who can we get now? Well, who can we get to do this? Oh, what? All right, but we need somebody else to do this because we're going to film it at the same time we do this. And it's like,
well, so Star Wars, they do have a head person like Kevin Feige, but she's not very good.
She doesn't seem, the thing is,
they made fun of her on South Park.
But the thing is like, if they do have that person, I should have, like, with the amount of media news I can consume, I should at least probably know who that is.
But you can trace it all the way back to the beginning when they announced that trilogy. What was the first mistake they made there with a new trilogy? You have 3 different directors.
No, it should have been one person making the same.
And each director is going to write their own part of the story. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
One person who wrote all 3 movies,
or
at least had like here's the idea. First one's gonna be this,
here's the
second one's gonna be
outline.
this, third one's going to be this.
Yeah.
Then you bring in people to write that, and you go over it with them.
That's what should have happened, and it didn't happen.
Because then you get one story, because that's the point. 4, 5, and 6 is one story. 1, 2, and 3 is one story that's kind of crammed into a tight space.
It is, but it's still one story. Right. And it's fun to look back now, like people that shit on that trilogy at the time. Now,
think, right?
Not as bad as you think. It was just more politically charged. For what? I mean, like, the movie's all about like senates and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Title.
But it's just no. I've lost pretty much any faith in Star Wars. It's at a I would say for me it's at a worse level than Marvel stuff. Like there's still at least Marvel stuff I have some interest in. Like Deadpool's going to be fine.
Fantastic Four is coming. That has a chance.
That does have a chance.
We're gonna redo X-Men now.
Blade does not have a chance.
Blade is dead.
Blade is at a situation where I look at it and go like, let's just cancel it.
Or how about he doesn't need his own movie? How about he can show up in something else?
Yeah, that's fine too.
How about what they do is, since Daredevil's coming back, we do a series that's Daredevil, Moon Knight, and then Blade is there too.
That's fine.
Got, I would be 3. You do Marvel Knights, and you get these 3 dudes to hang out and do that.
They did a Blade TV show once. You can do it again.
Like that, if the Blade movie is going to be such a train wreck, especially after we're going Ant-Man sucked
2
and
directors.
All these others suck. You've already got an established Daredevil who's coming back, and that's going to be good. You've got Moon Knight, which I would love for a season 2. I think they're still like, oh, we don't know yet, but he was great in it.
Yeah, I'm sure he was fine. I didn't watch Moon Knight, but
just
I'm sure
make
he was
the next season of Moon Knight Marvel Knights. And Daredevil and Blade showed up. Done.
Yeah.
It's not hard. They want to make as many properties as possible to make as much money as possible, but
they do.
There's a smarter way to do it. In Star Wars,
Deadpool. Do you think Deadpool? Let me ask this question: do you think Deadpool will hit $1 billion this year? I think so too.
I think it's the only one left that has a chance. I am very excited for a new Captain America, just because it is Anthony Mackie's great as Falcon, and it's a good This is how you continue it without it being Chris Evans as Captain America. It works.
I'm excited for that. And I've always been excited for that because I like that storyline of him. Yeah, of him taking over. The problem I have with that movie has been reshot to hell so many times now. I think maybe part of the problem is Deadpool. Because that could, I think Deadpool is going to have ramifications for this stuff, and they're going to do a lot.
It's a reset button for a lot of stuff.
Well, so you have a reset on the front end of Captain America, and probably a reset on the back end of it as well, because you're not doing Kane anymore.
Right.
Who knows if there was stuff about that in that movie?
And I think that maybe the Kang stuff kind of goes away, but then Fantastic Four comes out. And even though that's supposed to be set in the past, I would bet you by the end of that movie, they are in whatever the current year is within the MCU.
They would have to be.
And then Doom becomes the problem.
Okay.
There's a way to do that too, because Fantastic Four is very much a time and space series of comics. So there's a way. Do you think there's a way in which they just make Dr. Doom the new Kang? That's what I'm saying. So you do Fantastic Four, and by the end of that, something happens where the Fantastic Four and Doom are pushed into, I think the MCU is currently at 2027 or whatever the fuck year it is in that thing. So then they're thrust forward into the present timeline, because then they can just enter it and already be established. And then Doom sets out to become the big bad, and you can stretch that out over multiple.
It'd be 5 years into the future from now, because that was what the snap was.
So then, but then Doom would also be where I would take Secret Wars. He would be the ultimate bad guy in that.
Okay.
And there's, like I said, as a Marvel guy who's read everybody and all the different fucking stories and all that stuff, you can build this stuff the way you want. There's enough leeway to change shit. They just seem to get stuck on certain things. I think naming that movie the Kang Dynasty 10 years before it was even bound to come out was a mistake. Not that you could have really ever predicted that this would happen, but maybe don't base everything off a character being there in a decade.
I agree with that.
And I mean, what's next for Star Wars? Do they have something in place after this?
They are making a Mandalorian movie. That was kind of where they left the Mandalorian now. Because the other thing I'll say that's weird about that show is the way that third season ended. You could have told me that was a series finale, and I would have been fine. Because the way it ends, like the Mandalorian and Grogu are just hanging out in a hut, and it's like, this is fine. But they obviously, since that's their most successful property with Star Wars since they've taken over, you're gonna make a movie of that. So that's supposed to be 2026. Like that guy's like shooting it right now, because then I think after that he's been going back and forth between that and Last of Us. And then whenever
and
Fantastic Four is going to shoot. So that dude's incredibly busy. That's why when they announced him for Fantastic Four, I'm like, really?
I like him a lot. I still think that's a bad call. I think you should have made all of them 5 years younger. I mean, really just him.
Yeah, probably just him, because the girl is the right age.
Yeah, and
the guy playing Ben Grimm, he's from The Bear.
Right. And the Human Torch kid is young too.
He's fine. Yeah, so that's you know who that is? Did you ever watch the 4th season of Stranger Things?
No, I never got to it.
He's that Eddie Munson guy that played the Metallica song.
But he's a younger.
That's fine.
Younger guy too.
Yeah, he's a younger guy.
But
Perfectly
isn't
fine.
the goal is to hope it kicks off and then do 2 movies and then all the crossovers?
Yeah,
that's 10
I would
years.
assume so.
Maybe pick somebody else. There was someone else who could have done it. I get why you did it, because immediately people go, "Oh, he's in it. I love him. I'm gonna go see it." But
yeah, like that's the thing. As far as Star Wars, the only other thing that's supposedly in the future is this Rey movie that nobody wants.
Oh, right. Yeah, I hear about that
because nobody cares.
Right.
Like that character, like, and it was brought up on something I was watching recently where the person asked somebody else, like, name one line that resonates with somebody that character said in those 3 movies, and they couldn't answer it. Because there isn't anything memorable that she said in those 3 movies. So it's like, why make a movie about that then? Well, how much further can you dig this franchise into a grave? So I don't know.
Let's do a young Palpatine movie. And it turns out in the young Palpatine movie, he actually built General Grievous. And like that's the kind of shit they do when they make this stuff up on the fly.
My girlfriend said it the other day, and I think she has the correct opinion in this case, is that the only good thing Disney did in the 10 years they've had Star Wars is the final few minutes of that I keep wanting to say Rebel Moon. God, no. Rogue One. Because they have that scene, and I'm sure you've seen this scene played somewhere, where they lead it up to the beginning of A New Hope, where Darth Vader's just fucking destroying all those dudes in that hallway. Amazing.
Right. Because you actually built him up as a villain.
Well, he's the number 1 villain, and they never ruined that character.
The thing though is, like, in 4, 5, and 6, you don't actually see him do a whole lot.
Not like that.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's always there. He's an imposing figure.
He's intimidating, but not like that.
Chokes a guy in a board meeting, but like you don't see him absolutely kick someone's ass.
Yeah,
the last time you saw him before 5 and 6, technically, he was half dead in a volcano. Wow, big deal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like it, and I had to sit back and think, like, I didn't even particularly care for that movie, but that is a great scene.
That's a rush jump to the movie, and they're like, man, how do we wrap this up so that it fits into 4?
It's a great way to wrap that up.
And then have him in this pot at the end.
In a franchise that also, like, they systematically took Luke and Han and destroyed those characters to get, like, here's our new character, Rey. You need to like this character, not Han Solo anymore. They killed him off. Not Luke Skywalker. They killed him off. They turned Luke Skywalker into a hermit who almost killed his nephew. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Like, that's Last Jedi. That's a very loose interpretation.
He was like a hermit, and then he's a ghost.
Drinking some weird milk. Yeah. His last, like, effort is he turns into what I would call a Force ghost to fight Kylo Ren, but then he disappears like Yoda.
Sure.
It's bad. It's really bad. The only person I say, like, that made it out of those 3 movies in a good place is Carrie Fisher, and that's because unfortunately she died.
Right.
So they didn't have a chance to do anything dumb with her character. other than they had her fly through space at one point
Cool.
in Last Jedi. So I don't know. Star Wars, I think, it's in such a trash place, and it sucks because it's a franchise that I grew up with. And I mean, there was a point where I read that encyclopedia from front to back as a kid. Like, I was in hard. And it's to watch it be destroyed and desecrated in the way that it has been it's shameful. So, well, I watched the Acolyte. No, I will say I watch the YouTuber, The Critical Drinker. I will watch every single one of his reviews of each episode because he hates it as much as I do. Watching every episode, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I have to. So